Hey guys, Jeremy with Dragonsmith Glassworks. I'm going to record a few videos in a row today because I'm not going to get a chance to record any for a few weeks after this. So we're doing a few today, and we'll do one tomorrow as well. We'll post them over the next few days. But I want to show you real quick our powder ribbed pumpkins. You see a lot of pumpkins out there that have powder in between the ribs. That's done by sprinkling powder over the piece between heats, but we're going to do one where the color is only on the ribs with the base coat below that in between. So I'm going to take my pipe here, I'm going to go into the furnace, wind on my first gather of glass. You don't need a lot of glass to start these because you're going to get quite a bit of glass on your second gather. Usually I just go right into the color on a piece like this, but for these I tend to pull the glass up and off the end of the pipe first because I want as much of that clear glass off the end of the pipe before I even begin. Now I'm going to add some white color here. These chips of frit are colored with tin, I believe, and they are going to color this base coat white. Now I use small frit, so it's a pretty even coat, but I still need 2 layers because as I inflate, it's going to stretch out and thin the color, and I don't want that to happen. It'll also help kind of hide any gaps in between the frit as it melts, so if you get any little spots of clear, having 2 coats on there usually will cover all of that up. Now out on the table I have prepared my powder. I've already used it once, so you can see there's some inconsistencies in the height there that might come back and make this piece more difficult. I probably should have cleaned it up before I started, but we're going to go with it and see what we get. Before we get to that part though, I'm going to shape this up on the table and put in my starter bubble. Blowing into the pipe and trapping the air inside, letting that glass get pushed out of the way. There we go, giving us a nice bubble at the end of the stick. Giving it a swing to stretch it out. I like a longer shape on my starter bubble. I don't like those sort of squat round shapes. I know a lot of glass blowers do. It's a matter of personal preference. There's not a right or wrong there. There might be shapes that are better for different techniques, but for me, for pumpkins, this is how I start. I'm gonna let this cool way down, go back in the furnace, and get my next gather of glass. It is the end of October here in Pennsylvania. It's nice and warm in front of the furnace, but we've been making pumpkins for a better part of 2 months now. So I'm a little pumpkined out, but we're gonna get through this one. It's gonna be nice. I'm looking forward to the end of October when I don't have to make any more pumpkins for about 6 months. They're really fun for about 3 to 4 weeks. So back into the furnace to scoop up some more glass. I draw back on these because I want some excess glass on the tip. There we are. I'm going to shape that up on the table. It's orange right because it's so hot, but you should be able to see it changing color as soon as I hit that table. Now I'm going to press down into my rib mold. This is the mold I prefer to use for pumpkins. There's lots of options. This is my preference. There we go. Blowing into the mold. I tamp the glass down for a few reasons. I'm driving the pipe deeper into the glass. Then I draw the pipe up as I inflate. That helps get those ribs all the way to the top of the color. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to add a hose to my pipe so I can inflate the glass while I'm working. Now, on this technique, I'm going to go back into the furnace, get it really hot, but I'm careful not to inflate it at all or inhale because I don't want to change the position of those ribs at all. They are perfect for what I'm about to do. Angling it down, and I'm going to slowly roll across that color. I want a denser coating, so I'm going to go back melt that in a little bit and do that one more time. And now I'm going to inflate this before I start to melt that second coat in. I'm checking the ribs to make sure there's no contact. And now I can heat the whole thing back up and make my pumpkin. If those ribs touch back to each other, it's not going to ruin the piece, but it will make your pattern not as nice. And you can sort of fix it if you catch it before you make it too large. Now, I've got a pair of jacks that I only use for pumpkins. One more heat, I'm going to nip this little nub off and squeeze that jack line down some more. And then I'll show you what this looks like up close before we add the stem. Working with black and white, these colors really aren't going to change much as it cools down. Once the orange goes away, you pretty much see the real color. Tighten that jack line down. Get rid of that nib. In a pinch, this technique can give you like a faux cane look as well. It's not nearly as nice as real cane, but it's an option if you're in a pinch and you need it done. So I'm gonna shape the bottom of that up just a tiny bit, let it cool down, and then we'll remove it from the pipe and add the stem. So most of that orange color is gone. You should be able to see that pretty well. I'm going to drop it right here. And add the stem. Little tap and it pops right off. I often will just use the blowpipe to go in for my stem if I'm making a pumpkin, or my loop if I'm making an ornament. I'll just gather right back on top. You'll need an extremely hot core for something like this. The larger the opening on the top, the more careful you have to be when you apply the stem. So I'm going to add some texture to it, just like we did with the body. I'll use a slightly different mold though. There we are. And then I'm going to cool the tip of this, just so it doesn't get sucked into that hole at all. Using the weight of the pumpkin. Come on, you. There you go. To stretch that stem. And my favorite part is winding up the stem. I will cast away. And usually set that down. I don't normally do this on the Marver. I have a knockoff station, but that's hard to get a good picture of, so I've moved everything over to the Marver, but left my shears and my tweezers and my torch in the wrong spot. So because I was fumbling, this is really stiff and straight. I don't want it that way, so I'm going to torch it and sort of shape it this way, trying to keep my arm out of the shot there, so you're actually seeing what's happening. Notice I'm not torching where I want it to, where I'm tooling it. I'm torching it around that area so that I can then move it. I try to keep the stems relatively close to the body because I don't want them to break when I pack them up for shipping or to move to the next show. Put on a glove. And there is our pumpkin. Thanks, folks. I'm going to put this away to cool down so I can pull it out of the oven tomorrow morning. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.